And up.
Hello and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines this hour. Russian President Vladimir Putin lands in New Delhi for his two-day visit to India starting today. Putin and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will attend an annual summit held by both the countries. Following the Moscow meeting on the Ukraine peace plan, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has announced plans for new talks between the Ukrainian delegation and Trump's team very soon. After US envoy Steve Witkoff's meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin on the peace plan to end the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, US President has said that the talks were reasonably good while further emphasizing on his push for peace. French President Emmanuel Macron is in China for high-stakes talks with the Chinese president. While speaking on the meeting, Macron says the two countries must overcome their differences. Hamas has returned the body of another deceased hostage as part of the Gaza peace plan. Israel has confirmed the identity of the deceased as Sotisak and Rinthalak, agricultural worker. With this, now body of only one hostage remains with Hamas. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has slammed Israel in his fresh comments on the Gaza war. He has said that there was something fundamentally wrong with how Israel conducted its military operation in Gaza Strip. China urges the United States to stop official exchanges with Taiwan. China has firmly opposed to any form of official exchanges between the US and Taiwan and urged the US to stop official exchanges with Taiwan and refrain from sending any signals towards Taiwan independence. Rwanda's foreign minister says a new accord with the US and the DRC could help advance peace efforts, even as Rwandan-backed M23 rebels and the Congolese army accuse each other of breaching the ceasefire in eastern Congo. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that European Union leaders are preparing a new sanctions package against Russia, and he emphasized that it must focus on tightening pressure on Moscow's energy sector. Speaking after meeting Cypriot President Nikos in Kyiv, Zelensky noted that the measures should target everything that fuels Russia's budget and enables it to continue the war. He also expects Cyprus to support common European decisions on frozen Russian assets, as Cyprus will hold the rotating presidency of the Council of the European Union from January 1, 2026 to June 30, 2026. Let's listen to what President Zelensky said.
Зараз готують лідери Європейського Союзу новий санкційний пакет. Ми хочемо зробити його справді дієвим, а це означає продовження тиску на російський енергетичний сектор передусім, на все те інше, що дає Росії бюджетні надходження, а отже можливість затягувати цю війну. Ми розраховуємо на підтримку Кіпром спільних європейських рішень щодо російських активів. Це абсолютно справедливий принцип, що Росія повинна платити за війну, яку сама ж почала та яку продовжує. Кошти, які потрібні для оборони та для відновлення після російських ударів, цілком справедливо взяти з тих обсягів, які сам агресор залишив в руках вільного світу.
And let's welcome Alison Mutler, who is the former AP Bureau Chief in Romania, joins us live from Bucharest. Thank you, Alison, for joining us once again here at NewsX World, and we do appreciate you taking time out to speak to us. Alison, Zelensky's comments are coming, to target Russia's energy sector. In fact, European Union is almost finalizing a deal on phasing out Russian gas imports as well. And this is crucial here because Putin is right now in India, which happens to be a key importer of Russian oil and gas. Where does this leave Russia in the entire geopolitical scenario amidst all these contexts?
Well, obviously, Vladimir Putin, Russia is reaching out to all the markets he can get, and India is a very big market. But Europe, which has been the strongest critic of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, has still been quite dependent on Russian, particularly Russian fossil fuels. So this new act is very important. It currently gets 19% of its fuel from Russia, but that is going to be phased out until 2027. There's still Europe is still pretty dependent, but it's phasing that out gradually and weaning itself off Russian gas. It's a political, but it's also an economic move to stop. One of the key ways that Russia is paying for its hostilities in Ukraine, but it's also a political step to show that Europe wants to break away from dependency on Russian gas and other fuels.
Alison, do stay on. There are some more inputs we're getting. Viewers, the United Kingdom has unveiled sweeping new sanctions against Russia moments after Security Minister Dan Harris addressed Parliament on the findings of the public inquiry into the 2018 Novichok poisoning. Now, Harris said the inquiry makes clear that President Putin bears moral responsibility for the attack that killed British citizen Don Sturgess. Let's listen in to what the UK's Security Minister had to say.
The inquiry has found that those who were involved in the assassination attempt against Sergei Skripal were morally responsible for Dawn's death, and that deploying a highly toxic nerve agent in a busy city was an astonishingly reckless act. The Chair concludes that the operation must have been signed off at the highest level of the Russian state, including President Putin. Dawn Sturgess was the victim of an utterly reckless and dangerous act, a chemical weapons attack perpetrated by Russia on British soil. The pain and suffering it has caused can never be underdone. But we must honour Dawn Sturgess's memory, uphold truth and justice, and keep everyone in our country safe.
In response, the government has sanctioned the entire GRU military intelligence service, 8 cyber officers and 3 additional GRU operatives accused of hostile activity across Europe and Ukraine. The Russian ambassador has also been summoned to the Foreign Office to account for what the UK calls Moscow's ongoing campaign of aggression. Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the findings highlight the Kremlin's disregard for innocent lives. And I'd request Alison to join us back in the discussion here. Alison, how do you view the developments, first of all?
Well, first of all, this attack in 2018, which is 4 years before Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, did send shockwaves through Britain. That this innocent woman who was in quite a vulnerable position, she'd been given some perfume, I think, by her boyfriend that he'd found in a garbage bin, and it contained Novichok, and she died. It was absolutely shocking, particularly when that was aimed at a Russian agent that had fallen foul of the Kremlin, of Vladimir Putin, and the fact that it took place, as it was, the comment said, on British soil, I think outraged people even further. But the British government, the British authorities, have undertaken a painstaking inquiry. It's taken, 2008, that's taken 8 years or 7 years to be concluded. And so it's been concluded without a shadow of a doubt that such an operation carried out by GRU, that is the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, on British soil, was done deliberately and was done brazenly and was done to show that Russia can do this. And as a result, also because of what's happening in Ukraine, that the full sanctions have been laid on GRU and its agents, and they've actually identified them. I mean, even at the time there was CCTV footage of the 2 men. I remember walking through London and Salisbury where it happened. But there was a great deal of outrage at the time that Russia would undertake such a brazen act, and that was before the invasion of Ukraine. So relations weren't great, but they weren't as bad as they are now.
Right, Alison, I'll have to let you go with that. We have some pressing developments now also coming in from Brazil, but thanks for your comment there. Viewers, Israel has launched a new wave of airstrikes on southern Lebanon, targeting what it says are Hezbollah positions. The strikes come just one day after Lebanese and Israeli civilian representatives held their first direct talks in decades. Despite a ceasefire in 2024 that meant to end more than a year of hostilities, Israel has continued operations in the region and has kept troops stationed in several strategic areas of southern Lebanon. The brief pause in airstrikes during the visit of Pope Leo XIV earlier this week has now ended. The Israeli military announced it began hitting what it called Hezbollah terror targets in multiple towns, including Maharuna, Jabba, Mahadal and Barashit. Israel had issued advance warnings before the strikes. Lebanese officials warned the escalation raises fear of a broader military confrontation as Hezbollah refuses to disarm despite government commitments. And we would now request Peter Baum, editor of the Weekly Blitz, to join us in this discussion here. Thank you, Peter, for joining us. Now, it's crucial here that the incident and the strikes and the attacks are happening just after Pope Leo visited there and in fact urged to give up arms.
Yes, I don't think it would have been rather undiplomatic of the Israelis to have carried out bombings on the Hezbollah positions whilst the Pope was there, but running simultaneous with the Pope's visit was something that I think was an incredible achievement. For the first time in decades, Israeli diplomats met with members of the Lebanese cabinet, of the Lebanese government, to discuss the Hezbollah situation. Now, clearly, Lebanon and the people of Lebanon do not want an Iranian-backed Shia militia operating within their country as a government within a government. And the Israelis will not allow Hezbollah to rearm militarily to the strengths it was prior to October the 7th. And Israel has given commitments to the Lebanese that if they are unable to disarm Hezbollah, as was agreed several months ago, then Israel would take it upon itself to do the job that the Lebanese army should be doing, but unfortunately at this current moment is not strong enough to do so. So the Hezbollah is clearly trying to rearm itself and build itself up again, is trying to have some kind of military force in Lebanon similar to what it had prior to October the 7th. But now, with Iran being isolated and with Israeli military still very, very strong, and now with the Lebanese government politically not wanting Hezbollah there, but militarily being unable to achieve that objective, we're going to continue to see bombing of Hezbollah positions within Lebanon or wherever they are by the Israelis until such time as Hezbollah are further weakened. They will clearly, Israel will never be able to defeat them totally, but that's not the point here. The point here is to ensure that Hezbollah is not in a position to be a military threat to Israel, as she was prior to October the 7th.
Sure, do stay on with us, Peter. There are more developments now coming in from Israel, where the military has also announced that its forces have killed around 40 Hamas members trapped in tunnels beneath Rafah in southern Gaza, which is now under Israeli control. According to Israeli and US officials, approximately 200 Hamas members had been trapped in the tunnels for months, while some have since been killed in clashes or surrendered. Others are still reportedly inside. The Israeli military confirmed the deaths of at least 3 local Hamas commanders, including the son of exiled Hamas leader Ghazi Hamad. Efforts to broker a deal allowing the group to surrender in exchange for safe passage have stalled, with US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff calling it a critical test for disarming Hamas. Hamas has not officially confirmed the reported deaths or the number of its people still trapped. I request to Peter to join us and give his comment on the latest developments. Peter, how do you assess this?
Yeah, this is a very interesting story because it first raised its head about 2 weeks ago when there was talk of some 200 Hamas operatives stuck in tunnels, unable to find their way out. And some have tried to escape and have been eliminated. But the big story here is, I think, is how those operatives, those Hamas operatives, have actually been let down by the Hamas leadership, who could have negotiated a way out for them. Turkey, Qatar, at some stage, politically were willing to take them in, and Hamas and Israel said to via Steve Witkoff that sure, we will let them go, providing they are no longer a threat to us, i.e. that they are taken to other locations and obviously disarmed, and that we want the bodies of the remaining hostages returned to us. Now, Hamas, or the leadership of Hamas, didn't comply or didn't wish to comply with those requests, and hence we're in a situation where the Trump administration is saying to the Israelis, okay, if you want to finish the job, do so. Hamas doesn't know what to do now, and Turkey and Qatar, frankly, have been very, very silent on the well-being of these Hamas operatives stuck in the tunnels. Frankly, the world at large has given up on them, including their own friends and military colleagues. So, and if they come out of the tunnels and give themselves up, and no one knows how many more are remaining, it's suggested that many of them have already died of because of the conditions in which they're living in. Those that have tried to escape, and there's been about 40 incidents, we think have been eliminated. So it's not sure how many are left, but let's assume there are approximately between 50 and 100. Then I'm afraid, unless Hamas give something, and there's not much more that they can give because most of the hostages' bodies have been returned now, I'm afraid these souls are going to suffer the consequences of waging a war against Israel.
All right, thank you for your observations, but do stay on. Viewers, let's tell you some more information now coming in. Gazans in the southern region of the Gaza Strip are inspecting the aftermath of an airstrike that targeted tens of displaced people in the Al-Mawasi area west of Khan Yunis. The attack, which took place overnight, has left families in the area devastated, with many displaced residents now searching through the rubble. One displaced woman at the scene voiced her anguish. Listen in.
يا أهدافك أنت قاعد بتقتل في أطفال، نسوان وأطفال نايمين، إحنا كلنا في المخيم صحينا على فاجعة، على مصيبة، على كارثة. 32 إصابة كلهم صغار وأطفال، كل الجيران كلها متصابة. يا عمي خيام، قولوا لهم إن إحنا ساكنين في خيام شرايط، يعني إشي ما بتحمل صواريخ. وين الاتفاقيات؟ وين الهدنة؟ اصحوا اصحوا يا عالم، ما فيش هدنة، ما فيش هدنة، بيقتلوا فينا في الأماكن اللي بيقولوا عنها خضراء.
Moving on now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has nominated his military secretary, Major General Roman Goffman, as the next director of the Mossad. Goffman will succeed current chief David Barnea, whose 5-year term ends in June 2026. The nomination is now under review by the Advisory Committee for Senior Appointments. Listen in.
אני מביא היום את מינויו של האלוף רומן גופמן לראש המוסד הבא. רומן הוא מפקד עתיר הישגים. בצה"ל הוא ליווה אותי כמזכירי הצבאי. הוא ליווה אותי. רומן ליווה אותי בשנה האחרונה במלחמת התקומה, במבצע עם כלבי. הוא פעל מול צה"ל וכל גורמי הביטחון, כולל ובהדגש עם המוסד. הוא בעל תכונות מוכחות של מנהיגות, יצירתיות, תחכום, תחבולנות, בקנה מידה עולמי. הוא היה הקצין הבכיר ביותר של צה"ל. ב-7 באוקטובר רץ לשדה הקרב, נפצע שם, החלים ועושה עבודה אדירה למען ביטחון ישראל. אני בטוח שהוא ימשיך לעשות זאת ביתר שאת בתפקידו הבא במוסד.
Goffman, who rose through the IDF armored corps to become a division commander, has served as Netanyahu's military secretary during the ongoing conflict. The Prime Minister's office praised him for his professional expertise, close coordination with intelligence and security agencies, and extensive operational knowledge. Netanyahu's decision reportedly bypassed two candidates recommended by Barnia. And I now request Peter Baum, editor of the Weekly Blitz, to join us back in the discussions here. Peter, now the man that Netanyahu has recommended, his tenure has been marred with several controversies, including using Iranian dissidents to attack the country from within and the use of a teenager for an influence operation. Help us understand, and our viewers, the credentials that this man holds.
Yeah, this seems to be a very good choice politically that Netanyahu has made. The gentleman in question was the most senior military commander to be injured in Gaza. The feedback that I've had from all circles, military and diplomatic, is that he's not only very well respected, but also very well liked. Clearly in the field of operations, he's an expert, but more importantly, and which is why I think Netanyahu chose him, his administrative skills and diplomatic skills are also highly credible. So at the moment, it seems as if all parties on the political spectrum are in agreement with Netanyahu's choice. I think he will get an easy passage. I think he will be the next head of Mossad, and I think his intellectual skills combined with his operational skills and administrative skills, and of course more importantly his connections within the intelligence field, not only within Israeli circles but outside of Israel with Europeans and with the Americans, holds him in good stead. I think it's a shrewd political choice, and I think this gentleman will get the job with ease. I don't think there be too many people opposing the Netanyahu's choice here.
All right. I thank you, Peter Baum, for joining us here at NewsX World and helping us with your comments there. And with that, viewers, we shift our focus now to some news from US and Mexico. The Texas state authorities have found 23 undocumented migrants hidden in a truck on the US-Mexico border as the US President Donald Trump's administration presses its crackdown on illegal immigration. The Texas Department of Public Safety has stated that officers have searched the vehicle during a traffic stop in La Salle County in the south of the state. The department has added that the driver has claimed to be traveling alone, but from El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Mexico, as the migrants have been handed over the U.S. Border Patrol. Meanwhile, the driver has been arrested, identified as John Amaya, a resident of Texas, charged with smuggling of 23 people and could face a mandatory sentence of at least 10 years. And that's a wrap on World Report on NewsX World. Keep watching for more international news updates.